Ukrainian soldiers are effectively entering the war of the US and Israel against Iran. In particular, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, stated that after Iran's strikes on that country's military bases, Britain is effectively also entering this war and is asking Ukrainians for help. Starmer made the main statement in this context. He says that Ukrainian specialists will help the United Kingdom protect the Persian Gulf countries from attacks by Iranian drones. Keir Starmer directly stated that Britain is involving Ukrainian military personnel to participate in countering the Iranian regime. Volodymyr Zelensky today acknowledged that a prolonged war against Iran could create major problems for Ukraine, such as a shortage of missiles for air defense systems. At the same time, Zelensky stated that the US and Israeli operation in Iran could serve as a good signal for the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. This, in particular, is a reminder of how dictatorship always ends. In Europe, more and more countries are stating that they are preparing to enter the war against Iran, and therefore Ukraine's help is needed now more than ever. And there are even purely economic reasons for this. These are the prices of gas and oil, which have sharply increased in Europe. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start this episode, I ask you to subscribe to this channel and like the episode. And leave any comment under this video so that as many viewers as possible can see this episode. I also encourage you to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Peachy News. The link is in this video's description. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. And there you will also see announcements of all the videos released on this YouTube channel. So, Ukrainian military specialists will help the United Kingdom protect the Persian Gulf countries from attacks by Iranian drones. This was announced today by British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and now I'll quote him. "We will bring in experts from Ukraine along with our own specialists to help our partners in the Persian Gulf countries shoot down Iranian drones that are attacking them. The United Kingdom is not participating in strikes against Iran and does not intend to join the military operation of the United States and Israel. However, it will support the defensive efforts of its allies. This is the best way to eliminate the existing threat and prevent further escalation of the situation."
Hang Ukrainian experts with our experts
to help Gulf partners.
graph to go to them.
At the same time, the advisor to the president of Ukraine on strategic issues, Oleksandr Kamyshin, stated that Kyiv is ready to help and share its experience in fighting Iranian Shahed drones. The same Shahed drones are now attacking Persian Gulf countries. According to him, Ukrainian forces managed to intercept about 90% of Russian attack drones, which sometimes strike Ukrainian cities by the hundreds in a single night, as you know. And here it's important to understand that the countries of the Persian Gulf are not experiencing anything close to the scale of drone attacks that Ukraine is facing, when literally hundreds of drones are actually flying toward our cities. But still we see footage of these drones hitting Dubai or Riyadh, which shows that their fight against this threat is still at a rather low level, and Ukraine's help will definitely be needed here. Let me remind you that on the morning of February 28th, the United States, together with Israel, carried out strikes on Iranian territory. Explosions in particular occurred in Tehran, Isfahan, Karaj, and Kermanshah province. And during the attack, the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was killed. In response, Iran has already attacked American military bases in the Middle East using missiles and drones. Well, specifically, the Iranian strikes targeted, besides Israel, of course, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, and Jordan were also hit, as there are US military bases located in these countries. And officially, as a result of the Iranian strikes in the United Arab Emirates, 3 people were killed and 58 were injured. Various facilities came under attack, including airports in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. In Saudi Arabia, the attack targeted oil shipments and the refinery in Ras Tanura. And so the state company Saudi Aramco shut down the facility as a precautionary measure. At the same time, the refinery located on the coast of the Persian Gulf is also the largest export terminal for Saudi oil. The supply of oil and petroleum products to local markets has not yet been affected, so these countries definitely need the help of Ukrainians. And here, basically, рассматривая ситуацию на данный момент, it looks like the strategy of Iran, or more precisely the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, is to try to sow as much chaos as possible throughout the region. Why am I saying this? Because when the number of Iranian attacks across the region was counted, it turned out that most of the launched missiles and drones were not heading toward Israel. They were actually attacking Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Bahrain, and Qatar. So basically, Iran's goal is to create exactly the kind of image we saw from Dubai, in order to sow panic, to show the entire Arab world and all the countries of the Persian Gulf what any support for the Americans and Israelis could mean for them, to create maximum tension in oil supplies so that essentially these same Persian Gulf countries, at least that's what they seem to be counting on in Tehran, would start putting pressure on the United States to stop the war. So, once again, most of the drones and missiles were not aimed at Israel. At the same time, the leaders of the so-called Big Three countries, Germany, France, and Britain, threatened Iran that they would join the US and Israel's operation if Tehran does not stop striking countries in the Middle East that are not involved in the fighting. Now, let me quote from the joint statement. The leaders of France, Germany, and the United Kingdom are outraged by Iran's indiscriminate and disproportionate missile attacks against countries in the region, including those that did not participate in the initial military operations of the US and Israel. Iran's reckless attacks are directed against Europe's closest allies and threaten their military and civilian populations throughout the region. We will take the necessary measures to protect our interests and the interests of our allies in the region. This may include, if necessary, the use of proportionate military defensive measures to destroy Iran's capability to launch missiles and drones at their source. Well, it's worth noting here that Europe has reasons for concern not only because of attacks on Middle Eastern countries. The fact is that oil prices are soaring worldwide right now, and in Europe, gas prices have also spiked sharply. In fact, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, through which about 30% of the world's liquefied natural gas supplies pass, has led to a surge in gas prices across Europe. Europe primarily buys liquefied gas from the United States, but global competition for fuel may intensify, since Asian countries mainly import it from the Middle East. And that's why the price of this liquefied gas has already jumped sharply by 27%. But in Ukraine, there are signals that pressure should be applied not only to Iran. As Volodymyr Zelensky stated, the US and Israeli operation in Iran could serve as a good signal for the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. This is a reminder of how any dictatorship ends. And so, Zelensky reminded how Russia had already shown itself as an ally during the events in Syria when Putin was unable to save Assad's regime. Zelensky says the situation is repeating itself entirely. Also, in my opinion, they have demonstrated their weakness again now, meaning that as allies they are insignificant. Moscow cannot help anyone. All of Russia's armed forces are concentrated in Ukraine. They have no more forces left. And what is happening in Iran, I think, is a good signal for Putin to see how a dictatorship ends. At the same time, according to Zelensky, the fighting in the Middle East has not affected the supply of weapons to Ukraine under the Perel program. This program is working as before. However, in the case of a prolonged conflict, the situation, of course, may change. First of all, this may concern missiles for air defense. That's why it's in Ukraine's interest for the war against Iran to end as soon as possible. And that's why Ukraine is really ready to help its partners. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. Friends, if you found this episode interesting and useful, you can support the work of this YouTube channel financially with your donation or a paid sponsorship subscription using the links and details in the description of this video or by scanning the QR code on your screens. I will be grateful for any support you can give. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.